Good morning. Let's start the class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma
Wait. आवाज नहीं, there's no sound.
We can't hear you.
Hershey, I think one.
Gurji, sorry, by mistake you got muted. Can you? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
I'm
Sonia.
sorry. Okay.
Asto Ma Satgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamya Om Sahna Vavatu Sahna Bhunaktu Saviryam Karvavahi Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi Om Shanti 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 Om. So Saturdays we study Vivekachudamani, written by Adi Shankaracharya ji. And we are going to start our class with verse number 267 today. He's going to talk about the vasanas. Because of the vasanas, we don't know who we are. They keep a little covering on our self. So how to get rid of vasanas, how to give up the vasanas. He's going to give us some methods. So let's look at verse number 267. Gyatehe vastunihi api balvati vasanaha anadi eshaha karta bhogta api aham iti dridaha ya asye sansar hetu pratyag drishtayaha atmani nivastaha sa apneyaha prayatnat muktim prahu tat ih munyaha vasana tanvam yat. Gyate vastuni. When the truth is known, api means even. Balvati, strong, powerful. Vasana, the impression. Anadi, beginningless. Eshaha, this. Karta, the doer. Bhogta, the enjoyer. Api means also. Aham, I am. Iti means thus. Drida, firm. Ya means which. Asya, once. Sansar hetu, the cause of this worldly existence, the cause for sansar, the rebirth. Pratyag drishteya, identification with the innermost. Atmani, in the self. Nivastaha, by one living. Sa means that. Apneya should be removed. Prayatnat, conscientiously, with effort. Muktim, liberation. Prahu, prahu means call or say. That is that. Ih, here. Muneya, the sages. Vasana tanvam, annihilation of vasanas. Yat means which. Even after the realization of truth, there remains a powerful, beginningless deep impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, which is the cause for a rebirth. By living in a subjective state of steady identification with the self, it has to be consciously removed. Okay, so what do we need to remove consciously? The doership and the enjoyership. Okay? That which is the annihilation of the vasanas here and now is called liberation by the sages. So in a way, he's trying to define for us what the liberation is, what the mukti is. Mukti does not mean just dying from this bodily existence. Mukti could be living in this body, but still annihilation of all the vasanas. That's a mukti, that's a liberation. Because even if you have studied the scriptures and you have known there's a reality, but still sometimes we see that we cannot live the dictates of the scriptures because of the pressure of these vasanas. And whenever there's a doership and the enjoyership, we see the underlining power is what? Lust, anger, likes, dislikes. They do not leave that easily. Because we just have a book knowledge only. We have studied the scriptures. So by studying the scriptures, learning to argue, you may have a very good opinion of yourself, but the people around you will understand exactly who you are. Because these vasanas are extremely powerful. So studying the scriptures, learning all this, that's just a means. Means should give us the proper end, and ending is removal of the vasanas. And that's why he said the attitude of doership and the enjoyership. We need to remove those. Because identification with the mind will give rise to the sense of enjoyership or the doership. Intellect says, yeah, you are enjoying this. So still identification with that. So these put together, enjoyership and the doership put together constitute the jiva. And this jiva is the one which keeps on coming again and again. And that is what sansar hetu really means. So our sadhana should be about removing this vanity of agency and enjoyership, because that's the essence of the ego. Jeev really means ego here. Ego. The ego is the final manifestation of the subtle and powerful vasanas in each personality. Enjoyership, doership. The feeling that I am this not self. We are the self, but we think we are the not self. Anatma, he used the word anatma also at many places in this scripture. So even a person who has studied the scriptures, there can still stay these vasanas, and the cause of the transmigration is these powerful vasanas. This term pratyag drishtya, it is like a subjective state. Know yourself subjectively. So pratyag really means subjective or innermost. See, at this moment, we are extroverted. In order to turn inwards towards the Atma, we must make an effort and learn to give up the I do mentality and I enjoy mentality. That's what he's telling us. Because extrovertedness is about that. I want to enjoy this. I want to go there. I want to have it. Enjoy. Or I did this. I'm the doer. So getting rid of the idea, I do and I enjoy, will take us towards liberation. See, I told you earlier that he is giving us the methods. And this is one of the methods. And this liberation is not afterwards, somewhere at some distant point. It is right here, and it could be right now also. That's what this great teacher is telling us. A person who can get away from the bonds of the vasanas is the liberated person. So liberation means a release from the vasanas. You want to understand it for yourself. Because vasanas are the one which create desires, the passions, the lusts, the greeds. And those are the things, those are the attitudes which take us away from our real nature. Okay, so understanding vasana and how to remove it, this is what he's telling us. And removal of vasana is the liberation. Then let's look at what else he's telling us. So in the next like 9 or 10 mantras, he's giving us these different methods, or he wants us to understand this vasana thing completely. Aham mam iti ya bhavaha deh aksh adau anatmane adhyasaha ayam nirastavyaha vidushaha so atam nishthayaha. Aham, I. Mam means mine. Iti means thus. Ya, which. Bhavaha, the notion. Deha aksh adau, in the body, sense organs, etc. Anatmane, the non-self. Adhyasaha, superimposition. Ayam, this, nirastavyaha, should be ended. Vidushaha, by the wise person. Swa atmanishtayaha, by identification with his own self. Aham and mama. I and mine, this notion in the body, sense organs, etc., which are the not self. So this body and the sense organs are the not self. So he says, I and mine, this notion in the body, sense organs, etc., which are the not self, this superimposition, the wise person must end. How? By identification with his own self. So by knowing the real, you will know that I am not which I thought that I was and which is non-real. So various obstacles may come on the path in order to remove the vasanas. So by one, he is explaining here. Because one of the obstacle is the sense of I and my. That is a main obstacle actually. Just thinking that this is who I am wrongly, this is the main obstacle. And from the I comes the mind also. So the ego with the physical structure is called I. The extension of I is projected into the world of object, mine. I am this body and these children are mine. But this house is mine. So they both are obstacles. Not knowing who I am and thinking that this is what is mine, they both are. So that's why I said this my is nothing but the objectified I. I projected and reflected in the objects is my. Okay, my is something away from me. Okay. So at present, there's a feeling of I-ness in matter, gross, subtle. That's why he said the sense organs also. I am this power to see. I am this intellect. I am this mind. That's all. He says the obstacles. So the totality of all these is me. Thereafter, I spread out me into the things around. And we claim that they are all mine. When nothing is mine. We say it again and again in our prayers also. Idam namam, idam namam. This is not mine. This is not mine. But still, in the back of our mind, we think, no, this is, I'm just saying it only like a parrot. This is mine. So then he says the superimposition, I am this must be rejected. Nirastavyo. Very powerful word. He says a wise man can raise himself above these misconceptions by constantly holding on to this idea. It is not just one time you tell ourselves that I'm not this. So we got to tell it again and again and again. Nirastavya. Because this denseness of the vasana is so thick, it's going to take a long time. So we got to consistently, for a long time, with a full faith, have this idea now in our mind. I am the consciousness because of which the body, the sense organs, the mind, the intellect are functioning. I am that. I am that Atma, that power, that energy, because of which my body is functioning. I am not the body, but I am that power. And which is nothing different than God. And everybody else also has that power too. So when we look at from that point of view, we are all same. Atma in me is no different than the Atma in a plant, in a bug. It's really strange that sometimes it's easy for us to see the Atma in the plant and in the bug, in the dogs, in the cats, but we cannot see the Atma in our relatives, the people we live with. But we got to again and again repeat this to ourselves. I am the mere witness of the functioning of this equipment. Witness. By this self-assertion that I am this, whether you want to use the mantra, I am Brahmasmi, or any other mantra, Tat Tvamasi, or just remember it just with the meaning behind it. He's saying the wise person should get out of this adhyas, the superimposition. Because superimposition has happened that I am the body. Or I am so intelligent, so smart. That's also superimposition. So he says, keep on repeating that. Let me read it again. Very beautiful verse, actually simple, but very powerful. He says, I and mine, this notion in the body, sense organs, etc., which are not self. So when he says etc., that means mind also, intellect also, ego also, are not, they are not the self. This superimposition, the wise person must end by identification with his own self. Okay. Now let's look at 269. Gyatvaha swam pratyag atmanam.
अच्छा अभी थोड़ी देर चुप रहना, अभी थोड़ी देर
Buddhi tadvriti sakshinam. स अहम इति एव सद्वृत्त्यः अनात्मनि आत्मतिम जहि. Gyatva means realizing. Gyatva. Swam pratyag atmanam, your innermost self. Buddhi tadvriti sakshinam, which is the witness of the intellect and its modifications. Sa means that, aham means I am, iti means thus, ev alone, sad vrityaha, by this positive thought. Anatmani, in the not self, atmatam, the notion of the self, like identification. Jahi means conquer. So now he's telling us further how to conquer this vasana. He says, realizing your innermost self as the witness of the intellect and its disturbances, and ever maintaining the thought that I am. So, aham iti. Shed your identification with the not self. Okay, so use this mantra, use this Mahavakya. That's why these are called the Mahavakyas. Just a small Vakya, small, a couple of words in there, very powerful. You got to know the meaning and then shed it away. Identification with the body is so strong. So again and again, repeat this with a full bhav. So jnanam over here really means a mere intellectual appreciation. But having gained this knowledge, you got to learn how to use this knowledge. It's like applying the knowledge also. First, we know it theoretically, we read something, then after that we reflect upon it, and then we experience it. So the self within is to be known as the witness of the intellect and its thoughts. Like we are learning, we are reading, we are understanding. Sure, we are using our intellect, the instrument. We are using our eyes also, we are using our ears also. Then we are using our intellect, but there is some power behind all this. And that is what we are. He says, take your mind towards that. So having known and understood its nature, one should move towards it. There are two words, hansaha and soham. Hansa means I am that, hamsa. And soham means he alone am I. So whether you say hansaha or soham doesn't matter. See, he used the word soham over here. But if you keep on repeating soham, there's a Kevali pranayam also where we repeat this mantra with the help of the prana. Ultimately, it just goes into the circle and it sounds like a hansa. Soham, hansa, same thing. Whatever is dear to you, just say that, but with a full bhav. Start living after that. If you're meditating on this mantra for a few minutes every day, then feel the effect of that afterwards also. Because effect does stay. Just like if we exercise, the effect of that exercise stays with us. In our muscles also, in our body also. The effect of eating good food, effect stays. The same way with this meditation also on these powerful Mahavakyas. So start living as a mere witness of all the pulsations of the body, mind, intellect by practicing this, that I am the self. So I am the self should be cultivated. It's not going to happen automatically. We need to cultivate this habit. So he is keep on telling us how to remove the obstacles of the ego sense or the vasanas. And that's why he said, Swa Atmanishtaha. We got to make a constant pursuit of the idea of the self. So in order to identify with the reality, we must disassociate what we are not. Okay. The non-self and the self, we should have full clarity. Brahma Akar Vritti, that idea should be kept alive during the entire period of our waking state also. Brahma Akar Vritti. See, all these thoughts are called vrittis. That's why it's called a vritti jnanam. This is the knowledge. Sure, it's a limited knowledge, but still this limited knowledge, the vritti jnanam, we need to use. But then we got to have a sadvritti. That means the right knowledge. This is also a vritti that I am the body. That is called a asadvritti, wrong knowledge. The right knowledge is I am not the body. So there's a vritti jnana, there's a sadvritti, and there's a asadvritti. So asadvritti, the wrong thoughts should be removed. And the sadvritti, the right knowledge, got to be planted. So this is what he's telling us over here. So again and again, you are replacing one thought with another thought. This limited knowledge, the vritti jnanam, will remove the false assumption, the anatmani to the atmani. Okay. Let's look at 270 now. Lok anuvartanam tyaktavaha deh anuvartanam shastra anuvartanam tyaktavaha swa adhyas apanyam kuru. Lok anuvartanam, involvement with the ways of the world. Tyaktava means give up or leave. So again, tyaktava, giving up, deh anuvartanam, ideas of following after the body or beautifying the body. Shastra anuvartanam, unnecessary study of scriptures. Tyaktva, leave aside. Swa adhyas apanyam, removal of the superimposition on the self. Kuru means practice. So what is he telling us here? He says, leaving your involvement with the social formalities, the ways of the world, leaving all ideas of running after your body or beautifying the body, leaving aside unnecessary study of the scriptures, banish the superimposition which has crept up on the self. It's like if we are always following and blindly following, without even understanding following it, whether it's the members of the society, we are fully engaged in the standard way of living. Everybody else is doing it, we say we got to do it too. without even thinking about it, why we are doing it. That is a lok anuvartan word means, following the crowds. Okay, we have to think about it. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm following, is it making sense or not? Is it taking me towards my goal, or am I just blindly following something? Lok anuvartanam. We live, if we keep on living as we are living, there won't be any change in us. In order to change, we got to look at it. Why am I doing something? We got to change the ways of our living. If you want to hold on to the spiritual path without changing the old values of life, old ways of living, a new dimension of life and living cannot be achieved. That's the point he's trying to make over here for us. We got to learn how to give up initiating those ideas which we have been just initiating all our life, where we are just only imitating the false values of others. We are not using our own thoughts at all, our own intellect. Blindly stamping over the blueprint of life which somebody else made. Okay, it could be the fashions of the time, it could be the language of the time, it could be the way we live, the routine we follow. We got to look at it intelligently. Okay, so for spiritual purposes, most intelligently, we got to replan our life. If you want to take a sincere sadhana, you got to become the director of your life. So the first thing to renounce is the blind following of the patterns of the time. Okay, that's why that's the very first one. Then deha anuvartanam. This impulses of the flesh, we become very slave to it. The tastes, the looks, we just become a slave to our body. Instead of using this body, we get used by the body. Deha anuvartana. He's not saying that don't take care of it, but do not become a slave to it. Body is for us to use, not the other way around. So don't become a servant to it. So deha anuvartana. Then what does Shastra anuvartanam? Blindly following the scriptures. In the scriptures, there's a lot written. There are scriptures after scriptures. That's why scriptures, the deep scriptures, should be studied with the help of a guru. There are some sayings in the scriptures, if you take it literally, it's not going to help you. There is a deep meaning behind those sayings. Especially the secondary scriptures, which are the primary scriptures, very hard to understand. The Vedas and the Upanishads, very hard to understand. So that's why you need a guru. And then the secondary scriptures also, like a Manu Samriti. Samriti is called as secondary scriptures. For that time, certain things were written. We really cannot take it literally. So when we start following literally some things which we are not supposed to, he says, don't do that. So blind following of the scriptures without understanding their deeper implication. This is what he wants us to give up. Shastra anuvartanam tyaktva. So after leaving these three aside, he says the deha also is like a deha vasana, shastra vasana, and the lok vasana. These are the three things he's talking about. In fact, he said Lok Vasana first, and then Dev Vasana, then Shastra Vasana. What are we supposed to do then? He says, in your own self. The self, the soul, go towards that. And this adhyas, the superimposition, do away with apayanam. And then do means accomplish, kuru. So in summary, what he's saying that end the misconception created by the superimposition upon your divine self. It's almost like removing the layers and see what is there underneath. So this verse you can read as a whole, which really means that make use of the word, definitely have a healthy body, make intelligent use of the scriptures instead of following them blindly. That's what he's saying. Because we are always tempted to follow the world. We like to go right behind the crowds. Wherever the more people are going, we want to follow that. We think that is the right thing to do. So he is warning us for that. Because if we keep on doing what we did yesterday, we won't find any change in us. Let's do one more verse and then we'll stop and then we'll go through question answers also. (271) now. Lok vasneha jantoho shastra vasneha apicha deha vasneha jnanam yathavat na eva jayate. So these are the terms I just used. So it's easy for you to understand now. Lok vasneha. Because of the desire for this world, the worldly way. Jantoho. Janto means people. We are all jantus. Shastra vasneha. The desire for unnecessary study of scriptures. Api cha. Api means also. Cha means and. Deha vasneha. Anxiety to pamper the body. Jnanam. Realization. Yathavat. As it is proper. Na eva. Never. Jayate. Takes place. People cannot attain realization because of their desire to run after the world. So this is in connection with the last verse. Because if a student wants to know who he or she is in reality, if we keep on running after the world, we won't have enough time, no energy left. And that's what happens these days. People feel depleted. So he says people cannot attain realization because of their desire to run after the world. Their thirst for unnecessary study of the scriptures. Study of the scriptures is a means, not the end. Got to remember that. And their anxiety to pamper the body. Because it just keeps on growing. You pamper so much, then you want to pamper more. Sky is the limit when it comes to these vasanas. So he's telling us, be careful about these three very powerful vasanas. And to whom? Anybody who has taken birth, jantu, living creatures. We are living creatures. We are living over here in a body, in a society. We came here because of certain vasanas. And if you don't understand that, the purpose of this human life, then we keep on adding more and more vasanas on ourselves. The equipment of understanding is definitely the intellect. It's apprehending the things But we got to understand, after understanding, apprehending all this, what are we supposed to do? So even in the scriptures also, if we don't understand that this is the means to attain the goal, we are always looking for something to get attached to, and some of the things we'll always dislike. And we'll just try to create a more and more thickness on the wall of our vasana. It's almost like if I dislike somebody, even if I see that person performing good deeds, in our mind, we can still find some excuses not to like that person. It is like almost like an enemy idea we develop in our mind. That person is doing something good, but we'll just say, no, that there must be some other reason behind it. So those are because of the vasanas. And when your mind is not ready, or it's not prepared to study the scriptures properly, no matter how many scriptures you study, you will miss the point. So this great Rishi is telling us, Acharya is telling us, unnecessarily do not keep on putting more and more loads on your mind. Because your mind, which is so colored right now, even the great statements of the scriptures will get distorted to you and you will not understand. Make sure that mind is clean first, restful. Allow yourself to understand the things the way they should be understood. Polluted mind is incapable of knowing things as they are. So the three very tragic shackles on a human personality are Lok Vasana, Deh Vasana, and Shastra Vasana. Okay. He's going to tell us in the next few verses how these shackles bind us so strongly. But right now, just understand Lok Vasana, following the crowd without understanding properly, following the pampering of this body, thinking that I am the body, and following the Shastras also blindly without understanding them properly. So he's really opening our mind over here quite a bit. So let's stop the class here and we'll go through some dialogue and then a bhajan. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The recording can be stopped.